Cruising the state, cruising that fast.
It's better.
Oh, all right. So the main. You have a piece of feedback.
I did,
Page 3.
page 3, second bullet point.
Yes.
To hire an administrator by the end of the first quarter of 2019. I think.
There's a lot of pressure also.
And the other is page 4. 9th bullet point, starting Mandel Walsh. It probably sounds like Whitehall. There's actually a village for White House.
Is that enough to decide?
Got it. All right, is that it? All right, I'll take them and send them to Brian. Or to Mayor Walsh, I suppose. And I will note it on the current minutes. And I will note it on previous minutes, but I noted it on this minute. And then I'll note it on this minute that I noted about.
And I'll look at that and see if.
Are we down now? Yeah, it's, it's a beautiful night out, it's right before holiday weekend. A little challenging if you go, so we're gonna try. All right, just for the audio record, I'm gonna run around the table for 10 minutes. Evan, Jen, Sarai, Shelley, Brian, Nina, Rainey, Pam, Linda, and Paul. All right, so Sid will not be here, Dick may be here a little late, as per usual, Kelly is not here. Yeah, Doug can what's everybody on this side? Just housekeeping, I will not be here next Thursday. Hold it together.
No, really, no, I want to move on.
I just asked.
That's how it is when you're the boss, isn't it? You just leave whenever you want.
That's how it is, the school ends, but summer camp doesn't begin. There's a gap. But Kelly should be back. Kelly should be here. And we do not have any meetings this Sunday because it's holiday weekend. And everyone's gonna be cool. Are you gone or gone? Any other just housekeeping stuff? To think about, I know we talked last week, we haven't made a decision yet, Sunday morning, we do have on Monday on Tuesdays. Those ideas are out there. Probably need to decide that early.
How about the majority of people wanted to do later on Thursdays? I thought we'd actually decided that. Have we not?
We decided, or everybody said, yes, that sounds great, but it hadn't necessarily checked with their lives to see if that really worked for you.
We also only have 3 more meetings.
Yeah.
So we have to get stuff out.
So I would say,
Maybe we have to do one Sunday, for safety, but then we're gonna have to get through the stuff we have to get through here quickly.
right, that's the struggle, we feel hard for it. So we've got a meeting the 30th, that's the one I won't be here for, and then that Sunday the 2nd, let's keep that. And revisit. Okay. Okay, thank you for the comments, I appreciate that. All right, so speaking of, the last stuff that we're struggling with, Kelly sent a updated copy He sent that today?
He sent it this morning.
Oh, I
At like
see.
7:30. It's okay, he only sent it to the two of us. He's a little stressed out right now. Basically, he sent us one from work. Yeah.
Well, I can check come on the computer tomorrow, because one of the things that I was to look for was language for, a safety commission. And after looking at approximately 15 on the charters, they're finding no board of safety in any of them. I think that all we need is our director, our safety director, safety department. We'll have our safety department, but I don't think that a safety board is necessary. And that's true.
So that was section.
That's Article 4, city commissions, Article 8, that was safety commission.
Right, I did not, I made a list of, I got
I love
tired.
it when the navigation bar works.
It's right there.
Yeah, at any rate, Dublin Task Yellow Springs. Actually, quality report of Dublin, Hickoryton, Buckeye Lake, Johnstown, and then a couple that I did look for. They just don't have a safety commission. They have the safety department.
What was the safety department?
The safety department, we have the language blue line. It was the simplest language I could find.
You said some of them have the
Oh,
safety
they-
department.
Oh, yes.
What do they call that as?
They just call it a department of safety. Or it's one of the departments defined as we do in section 3, we describe our departments and then department directors, director of law, director of finance, director of safety,
Yeah, so we have a
director
director.
of engineering. I'm not sure why we blue line through the language we use for that. Most cities that they have a much more extensive director of safety and safety department because they have police and fire and EMS. Their Buckeye Lake has just a reference to their police department and their fire department, but I wanted to show that to Kelly. It's in our notebook. It's in our notebook.
So we voted last time to nix a director of safety. Isn't that correct?
Is that?
We voted, we voted for
But
that
I think that was because we put it as commission.
as a commission.
Well, then I'll just,
I
I
think
found,
we're flipping them out. That's what I'm trying to tease out, Shelley, is what's the difference between the director of safety, if these have it, versus what we were trying to do on the commission, or are we trying to do the same thing, just calling it a commission?
with the director, with having a safety department, you're gonna have a paid person that's going to be the head of that department. It can be the mayor, it can be the administrator, but you're gonna have a paid person. If you look carefully under our boards, these are all staffed by somebody from the village, somebody, the council, but it's the volunteer positions. Most of these are the volunteer positions.
And that's what we had agreed on last week, isn't it?
And that's, I think, where we were trying to go, getting rid of a director per se, on the commission.
Gotcha, and I could find, okay, then I'll make it easy. I could find no language for us, a safety.
Well,
board.
what our safety committee does now is basically what a safety commission would do. There would basically be no difference other than it would not be a council committee, it would be a commission with citizens and a council liaison.
Well, then I would suggest that Kelly could modify the language, but he's got the language, powers and duties. I have.
Well, yeah, he's got advisory stuff and things in there.
Right, but I mean, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is I found no language
So
existed.
we have to make it up.
Yeah.
There's no powers and duties, right? It's just advisory in general.
It's advisory.
I would think
Advisory,
so. I would think.
Yeah, it's
You
just
don't think-
advisory.
The same language from another
Oh,
commission.
so like,
That's
for
what's
example,
got that in.
so for example, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall have the power and duty to hear and decide appeals regarding legislative measures. And they also make advisory recommendations to council. So they have duties, and that's what we were looking to put in for safety. You just can't copy the Board of Zoning Appeals, if that doesn't make sense for safety.
I think the zoning seems to have more teeth to me
Okay,
than the safety. To me, the safety is just, here's what we think you should be doing, but the zoning, I think, has a little more back to it.
agreed. So what would you want it to be written like?
Brian said,
So if I may,
Yes.
if the notion is to crib off the current safety committee, the current safety committee's purview per the village website is consult with the police and emergency squads as to police and emergency squad staffing, operational procedures, and training needs. Recommend policy for traffic control, speed, parking, including recreational vehicles. Report to the mayor any safety and fire hazard conditions. Recommend the lighting needs throughout the village. Oversee proper handling of hazardous materials, including collection, storage, and disposal of such materials.
that part, I'm not sure about. How do they do that as a village?
All they do is call the
Call
Columbus Fire Department hazmat unit. That's it. That's all it's done. That's all it's done everywhere across the state of Ohio. You call the largest department's hazmat unit because they're the only ones with hazmat trained people. And a hazmat unit.
I love it.
And you have to inform the state hazmat
I
unit.
guess my point on this is, are we gonna have a commission that is, village people are gonna meet once a week, gonna be a point person to call hazmat? I would think the mayor, the administrator, or somebody would just meet that.
Right, I don't think that we need that language. We don't need that language because,
I thought all the other stuff was perfect, except for.
yeah,
Even that, I would say, you could change it from oversee proper handling to, advise on proper handling procedures.
well, what it should say, in my opinion, is, this should also be a board that reviews incidents, including hazmat incidents. There was something, whatever it was, did you do it right, did you do it wrong? Only if there's a question about did you do it right or did you do it wrong?
So,
Well, yeah, like a standard kind of incident report, like,
sorry. Just talking about, sorry.
So, are you thinking like documenting it or an inquiry into whether or not it's done?
So when you brought up hazmat, of course, every little firefighter, paramedic bell in my head went off, right? So when we're talking about hazmat, it's incredibly important if incidents like that, if they're not handled correctly, that be fixed as quickly as possible. And there needs to be a formal procedure for fixing that as quickly as possible.
So the question is, does that have to be called out as a special responsibility, or does that fall under consult with blah, 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 under staffing and operational policies and training?
Right, I think that staffing, operational policies and training covers it.
What I having read this and thought about it twice, what I do think should be added is, hear and address public complaints regarding police and fire.
Yeah, I mean, in my perfect world, that happens. However, in reality,
Sorry, I wasn't here in the whole discussion. As we've been talking earlier, we've been talking about giving the council more power, more duties. So I'm wondering if this commission is seen as something because council should have less power and duties in the safety realm, or they're not handling them right.
or that the public should be
No,
more involved.
right, the public should be more involved, it shouldn't just fall on council, because this is another one of those things where I can see somebody or two people sort of, I don't know, trying to do something stupid, and I think more heads are better than not. And it also, to me, this was one of the issues that felt like it was something that we could help alleviate some of the lack of transparency. If there was a safety commission, if there were regular citizens on a safety commission, they could review policies and procedures. There have been lots of complaints about the police over the years. There will always be complaints about the police. I'm not stupid. I understand, I'm not naive. The majority of those complaints are going to not really be valid, in my opinion, the majority of them. But it'd be good if there were more citizens involved and could sort of flesh it out and see exactly what the situation is.
So you're thinking more putting it in citizens' hands as compared to the council.
I think that with having an administrator now, a professional that knows this, that we're already putting in an additional person that would have knowledge and hopefully, intention for transparency. And those things.
I agree, but I don't necessarily think, I agree with you, but I don't necessarily think that alleviates the transparency issue. I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess my thing is the more opportunities we can give people to be involved and know what is going on, whether they choose to take advantage of that or not is one thing, but the more opportunities we give people, the better.
And you're pretty sure this is.
What's the possibility of keeping the safety committee functions within council and having a citizens review board or something like that?
How is a safety commission different than a citizens review board? I mean, all you're doing is calling it a different name, you still want to do
I
all
mean,
these things.
you know, maybe if you guys think that we should just leave the safety committee as it is, tell me why you feel that way, because I think it's a better idea to involve more citizens, but maybe it isn't, so I want to hear why you think that. I don't think there should be two separate committees working at odds, which is exactly what would happen.
On the review board, that's dealing with citizens' complaints. The one on council would be dealing with policies, etc.
In the meantime, you're doing away with a safety department, which really is very silly.
Yeah.
I mean, what do all these other municipalities do when they have the complaints about their officers? You have to have a director with EMS and the police underneath there. And that's normally how municipalities handle that.
It is, you're absolutely right, and that was why I brought it up in the first place. That's why I wanted it in the first place. But the reality is, the meeting that you guys missed, this body voted to do away with the position of director of safety.
Okay, that's fine.
And we dealt with this village has never had a safety department
No, not
or a
necessarily.
board of safety either, so, but we've always had a safety committee. So the question here is, is there a valid reason to allow more citizens input on this committee/commission or not? If you don't want more citizen input, then just leave it as it is, and
I was just gonna say, the more that I think about this, and I could be completely wrong, is there enough to do for a 6-person committee for all this, for safety, just safety? And why couldn't you just have a general advisory board that's village, that takes on more things than just safety? Maybe there's something, maybe we can include advise on the Parks and Rec, advise on safety. Is it really just, I don't know that it merits meeting once a week, creating an input form to capture all this data. There's more work to it than just meeting, because people have to be able to submit stuff.
So
Come to the meetings.
I do think that you would be very surprised by the number of things that the current safety committee deals with. I think you'd be very surprised, but I also do not dislike your idea of an advisory board that does more than safety. I think none of us have even brought that up. You're the first person to say it, and it's not a bad idea.
So let me ask this, what we have right now, does it work? I don't mean what we have in the chart, I mean what the village has right now.
Well, it depends. It only works when somebody doesn't have an agenda they're trying to push. Then it does, and this is one of the reasons that I would prefer more citizens be involved.
So we may be proceeding from a mistaken supposition, because I just checked through the minutes back through March. And the only time we talked about safety commission was on 4/7, where Jen said that we should mandate a safety commission. And then again on 4/18, where Jen volunteered to research various language and personnel in our safety department.
And didn't.
And then Shelley did.
Right, fine.
So we have not in the minutes, we have not voted. on-
I thought last week, we did.
Safety definition, safety director.
Director.
I was searching for safety.
Yeah.
And I so,
I thought we maybe
Article,
all
that
we did
was, I
was
talked about was on maybe, and I'm not taking it down, but 418, Article 7.07, Director of Safety. And the only thing I have under it is that you were gonna research.
There was a meeting where.
I don't know what I've been there.
It was
We were
just last
talking-
week.
I know, but there was a meeting where we were talking about safety issues. And it was brought up that the person that is in charge, the head of the EMS, our police chief, there hasn't been much oversight to that particular person, because the mayor,
The fire chief.
the fire chief, yeah, sorry, fire chief, because, and then that's where, wanted to, she just felt I found out that, that's the reason. But, so I think there was so I was advocating that there be someone that is over safety, whether it's the police chief, who is also the director of safety, so that the EMS person is reporting to somebody, and then up there through the administrator. Now they could be reporting directly to the administrator, but it makes sense to have safety issues somehow contained and working together.
I think the only reason we voted no was because we thought people might think that we would have to pay for another person's
That's
salary.
exactly right,
And
and
so
that's
that-
not the case, but
It's
Yeah,
not the
it's
case,
not.
but it, perception of having a
Right.
charter.
So I guess the reason I asked is does it work now is, no.
yeah, I agree with him. Generally, I mean,
In theory, all but personality, and then
in
decide.
theory, the problem is that when it's broken, man, that is something that is really badly broken.
In other words, could we bring over what we have now as a commission and just let it run under,
Not without citizen input.
well, if it's under a commission, it would be citizens.
Right, I mean,
Wait, I found it. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Last week, President and we were talking about Article 7, and Kelly stated his concerns that we might be creating too many positions by having a director of safety. Jen replied that she wanted to create the director of safety so there would be professional oversight over the police, basically something that we had. Eddie and Paul had concerns that it might be viewed as a municipal paid office. So we said that since the charter allows the council the ability to create a safety director position needed, there was no need to specifically stipulate that he needs to create one. And that was pretty much all we talked about.
Right, yeah, so we structured director of safety, and now everybody's focused on creating a board of safety. Am I correct?
Which is commission, right?
Right.
Different things. I think they're two different.
They are two different, one or two different.
A director,
Yes.
safety director and a commissioner.
They are two different things, so
So
now,
which
so
one do we
now-
mandate in the charter is what the conversation really boils down to. Do we want to mandate that they have a director, or do we leave that up to council's discretion? But have a safety commission with these specific duties as spread off the website of line. Nina has questions.
Jim, and you have a very robust concern about this. And, I'd be interested in knowing specifically, at least one example, of something that happened, since you lived here, that it would have made a difference if there was, more active participatory activity of the citizens who live in this village. Because clearly it's something that is important to you.
Yeah.
Not raising it.
I don't know of anything.
I do.
Okay.
go ahead, Dick.
I would say the arrest of our school teacher and the arrest of a person on Georgia Road for marking a pothole.
And
We're very
Tell me
embarrassed.
more about this village.
She was seated over
Oh,
in
the
the
one
court,
that's,
yeah,
okay.
and got
That's an interesting.
handcuffed and carted off. Yeah.
And you
Those
see
are,
those as
those
safety
are the
things?
only two, and those are very recent.
Well,
And I think the issue's resolved now. It wouldn't happen again.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the part about this, is that there was nowhere other than down Divisive Alley for this discussion as a village to go. There was nowhere, there was no safety commission with citizen input. There was nowhere for people who were angry about these events or even had questions. There was no official place for them to go and air their grievances and or get questions answered. They went to individual council members, and not all the council members who were consulted agreed on the subject. So there was nowhere to go but down somewhere divisive. That was it.
So if I'm hearing you clearly, what you're after here is a mechanism. And I think his idea is a really good idea, because an advisory, body could take up anything that comes up, because that's just a couple of examples, but there's other things. A small example, a lady that lives across the street from me and her friend that lives around the corner had brought to me twice. I'm like, okay, I mean, I can't do anything about it. They don't like where the way the fencing is as you walk across that bridge. They think little kids can get down in there and get hurt. And I you know, that's out of my realm of, I don't know what to say to them. But if there was a place to bring that, that's a legitimate.
like an ombudsman?
I don't know,
Well, okay, an advisory board would be an ombudsman type thing. It would, because it would cover everything. But, okay, specifically, what I would have told that lady was go to a council meeting. And the problem is, council meetings are when they are. If we offer people another day of the week, an additional day of the week, I mean, they can go to council work sessions, but they can't speak. Citizens can't comment during council work sessions. You can go to coffee with council, maybe you can't make it to coffee with council, because that too is also on Monday night. So maybe an advisory board makes sense. I think that, those were excellent examples, and they weren't the ones I was thinking of at all. I was thinking of even worse things that cost the village a ton of money.
I guess I'd like to know, in that specific example, what an advisory board or a board of village people would actually have done. Because you could have 100 people say they should have never arrested that school teacher, and the chief still arrested the school teacher. And the mayor didn't do anything about it, the council couldn't do anything about it, the mayor probably couldn't do anything about it. Police chief has that power, the arrested the person. You can say next time you don't do that, but I think the news and the outcry did that.
Well, so here's the thing is that what keeps, I'm gonna say that particular situation probably won't repeat itself. But there was another situation I know about that was completely outlandish, where a citizen was, an elderly citizen who is completely innocuous in every way, was, in my opinion, essentially accosted by a police officer. That police officer was eventually fired. But the point here is it would be good if we had people who could talk to the police chief and counsel and talk about community relations between police and fire. This is one of those things, you know, the more you hang out with your citizenry, the less adversarial relationships become.
Brian, you had something to say?
So I don't understand how an advisory commission is different than village council, right? If all we're saying is that village council isn't available enough, that's a problem that should be fixed, right? It shouldn't be a shadow council. You shouldn't go take your problems to someone other than the people who can fix your problems, to go have them talk to the people who can fix your problems. That sounds crazy to me. However,
Can you back up on the screen, the village website piece?
where I see a safety commission is different, right, is because it's narrowly focused and it's an advisory board or advisory commission to make advice to council, right? So, and as far as, you know, what kinds of issues, so beyond consulting on policies and staffing and training needs and safety hazards within the village, I think that, you know, people who have issues with safety concerns, like the condition of the fence, I don't know which bridge you're talking about, the bridge on
I
the
walk
canal.
across, yeah, where it's sort of wooden and it goes down. This lady's 85. To her, that seems like a place that kids could get hurt.
So that's a reasonable concern. I've had residents who have reported harassment by the police. That's a legitimate concern. That's something that I don't believe council is politically prepared to handle.
No, they're not.
Right? But a board who is specifically empowered to research and advise is an appropriate thing. Now, I don't know if, I think we were saying 6 people. I don't know if 6 people is the right number. I feel like that could be a smaller number, right? 4, 3 residents, a council person, something like that. So that it's not a huge group, because it also feels like, you know, it could also be very sensitive material.
Would
So
this be the kind of?
No, go ahead.
Would this be the kind of commission, because I've always been concerned about emergency management and coordinating and making it more visible of how emergency management should be done. Once upon a time, the community building used to do Red Cross trainings and baby, you know, things, and just have it be more of a community involvement with the city.
certainly sounds like it would be within their purview to them to take on those tasks, but sure.
So I have a question for the 3 of you. Here, no. So will you address Paul's concern? Now, his thing is they're not gonna have anything to do.
Oh, dear God. They'll always have stuff to do. So,
Well, they have the power to do it.
well, that's us. So they will only ever have the power to advise, because they will never have the power to enact it, right? But you know, the expectation would be the council would be a council and the administrator, right? Because to some extent, police procedures don't get updated via legislation. So you know, if there is a new standard in policing tactics, right? Like, I don't know, stop and frisk becomes a national standard, God forbid. But they could advise, you know, this is the national standard, and this is, after researching this national standard, we believe Menlo Park should take up that national standard or not take up that national standard for these reasons. And then the director of safety or the police chief or the administrator, whoever we land on and all that, would then adopt that or not adopt that based on their reasons.
The reality of that is gonna be the police chief is gonna know before anyone knows.
Not necessarily.
Oh, yeah, he's gonna get.
But
He
yeah,
heard of that conversation though, right? That it's not a unilateral decision, but he definitely will have a key piece of that conversation. So are we all, I guess let me take it back up to highway.
I just think so.
Would you put a Band-Aid? Do you need a Band-Aid?
You just have to touch it. It's a ritual blood play.
I mean, you know,
On the town injury,
I know, it's a word
It's
playing,
it's an interesting proposition. I mean, the fact that you couldn't find anything, is interesting, but.
well, I think you tell us the director of safety.
No,
Vice versa.
No,
No,
there
just
is
the
no
opposite.
board, there is no commission of safety. They all have the director finance, the ones that we have, and then the boards and commissions, they have planning and zoning, board of zoning appeals.
Okay,
That's
so,
it.
So do you like the idea of a director, do you like the idea of committee, do you like the idea of none?
They're two different things.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like both.
I just wanted two things. When I had done research before, I was kind of interested about citizens committee, especially after the last two incidents, a citizens committee for safety. And what I did find was some of the larger communities did have a safety commission or whatever. It was more of a citizens advisory group. But where they did have it, people had to submit their resume because, as you know, police work is very specific. They can't sit around and say you don't like what the police do when in fact it's what police do. You can't change that. So they did require, which I thought was a good idea, people to submit resumes if they wanted to be on the commission. They had to have some relevant experience to be able to be on a commission. And there were like 3 or 4 people on the commission. And it wasn't a commission that met every month, it was like a quarterly thing. They would pick a topic and they would review that. Now, I think that's it. If we had interest in the community, I think it would be a good idea if we would have, because what I was pushing up against was, the mayor had a certain philosophy, the police chief had a certain philosophy, and I believed in community policing, and I did not see that happening. And so, I only had a tiny voice in there. And if what a citizens group can help with is if they come together and embrace community policing and what does that mean to them. And then, if be advising, the police chief and the safety EMS as to what their vision of that would be and talk that over. And so, have a voice. So I think that I would like to see residents personally have a voice like that. In terms of, what you do, whether you have a hierarchy internally. Number 2 is if you have hierarchy internally or not, you can still drag the same biases around. No matter how many layers of management you have, you can still have biases which, people disagree with. What kind of this or that, was that appropriate or wasn't that? We can discuss that all night. But the citizens give you a different point of view because council and the mayor and the administrator, whatever you're going to have, is you have a lot of priorities you're working on. And sometimes the nice stuff, the friendly stuff, gets put aside because, the bridge is down, the water is back up, and you've got, other priorities, and you only have lots of councils got full-time jobs too. So you have to pick your battle. And so the citizen group will give you an opportunity to have another point of view, another speaking in the process.
Let me respond to that. I think that's a great idea, but Council President Trent said even in her research, it's larger municipalities, right? Do we have 3 to 4 people with a resume that could fit on a police oversight board and willingness to do so? So we got one person.
I want to leave law.
Yeah, I mean, we have a population of 2,000 people.
Yeah. I don't expect,
I mean, I don't disagree, this is a great idea, I just don't know if we'll have the funds to fill it.
well, I don't know that we could expect to fill it with that requirement, right? Because I'm sure we have, I know we have at least one TSA agent, and we've got,
Firefighter.
we've got firefighters, we've got.
We have
We
police
do
officers.
have a lot
We have
of
police officers from other jurisdictions
We've got to have,
would run from a safety commission
yeah,
position.
yeah, but, so we would hope that if the opportunity is available to them, that it would be good, but I don't necessarily think that for what we're talking about, it's necessary, in my opinion, to have that background, because what I would hope this commission would do is bring forward the tone and character of Minerva Park and into our policing procedures and into, those kinds of things.
I can see it being helpful to say, me personally, if you disagree or not, I'd rather have the police here in the village and not parked on Cleveland Avenue getting speakers. Well, rather than, maybe it's a good idea,
So
as
that's
an advisory board, I don't need any special training about police tactics or procedures to say that I'd rather have the police here rather than outside of that area.
Sure, so let's take that as an issue, right? So a resident says, hey, police, I mostly see you flagging speeders on 161. I think that's a problem. So a person brings that to the commission, to the board that we're talking about, and says, that's an interesting question. And they research, what does that do for the village, right? Is there a genuine safety concern that's being met? Because our speeders on 161 causing an undue number of traffic accidents within our border, and we want that corridor on 161 to be safe. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, right? The same concern could be, I hate it when I see them cooping up there at Hawthorne, right? Someone says, I see two of our cruisers doing the piggy, whatever, right? And chatting for hours, what is that about? So then a commission could go and say, hey, this was the observation, check to see, if there were in fact cruisers there at those times, because there should be reports of their time, right? Find out why they were there. Maybe they were discussing something important that, so then they can address it, say, hey, concerned citizen, we've reviewed this, we've discussed it. Here are the facts of the matter that we can share with you. Those are things that a commission can do, I think, more effectively than council can. Those are things that I think, right, that I as because it's a less political body, in my opinion, for what I.
So, hold on, I have a question. I think that we're all saying great things. What's our goal here? What are we debating? Are we trying to debate, should we have a commission, should we not have a
I think
commission?
there's a
I think
lot
that's
of, a lot of,
Yeah.
And I think I'm just trying to bring them back into.
But
I'm
it's two
sure.
different, it's two different things. We've always said the village shall have a Department of Law, a Department of Finance, and a Department of Safety. It's green, it's there. Also in green, departments will be under the supervision of directors. So if
We
you have a
actually-
Department of Safety, you now have a Director of Safety, and it doesn't give you an additional.
We have to back her down, so we can take it out. So just because it's green doesn't mean it has to stay there.
So,
Because
but
we have this.
But I think, but we are gonna have a Department of Safety, I mean, you're gonna have a safety department.
No.
We're not.
But you're gonna have a police department, it's not a safety department.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm in agreement with Paul. I would like to have director of safety. I would also like to have a safety commission. I would like to have both, but I also agree with Paul and Kelly that there's already so much misinformation out there about how we're mandating all these additional people to be paid. And there are various people that are going around the village purposefully spreading this misinformation. And this is another example, if we require a director of safety, people are gonna think that we are requiring the village to pay another person.
All we have to do is put in there that the administrator may be the.
Any paid.
I'd ask that we vote on something and move forward.
I would agree, that's what I was trying to get back to, high level and Pauline, I think you were trying to answer.
Well, I still can't get past is it enough to have 6 people and all they do is public safety?
But, sorry, we put the website back up.
Yeah.
And then,
No,
talk back and forth.
so
I'm
I'm
just thinking,
thinking,
right, so-
yes.
There is.
We have people doing safety now, and they're doing things, I think it's a valid committee or whatever you wanna call it. I think that continuing that on, the question is, do we mandate it in the charter and say it has to be these citizens, or do we keep it a part of council? I think we all agree it's a good thing to have, it's just how to have it. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming,
Give a couple straw polls just to see how everyone's feeling and then move
Now
forward.
what do you think?
So what are we gonna vote?
so either leaving the safety committee as it is now in the purview of council, or having a safety commission that includes citizens. That would be straw poll number 1.
So there, you're saying it's either or, cannot be both.
Well, in the committee, there is a council liaison and/or the administrator or whoever, that there is a member of council that would sit on that commission.
So the choices are, the way we have the commission set up, it's citizens with a council liaison. The way it works right now, as I understand it, is it's a council committee.
That's correct.
Council drives it versus the citizens driving it. That's how I understand the difference between the two choices.
There are nuts and bolts things the safety committee does.
And that's great, we're not talking about getting rid of it.
Okay, that's all I wanted, because I think it sounded like it was either or. Safety committee with, on council stays the same.
Okay, well,
Well, no.
all right, so
Alright,
here,
back up, so safety committee run by council or safety
No.
committee that's citizen led, those are the two choices on the table.
But there are nuts and bolts things the safety committee does on council that a commission would.
Give me an example.
Oh, they look over the police reports, they decide, they are oftentimes part of the interviewing process for a police officer. Somebody comes to them when it's time for the dispatching thing and they said, oh, that's right, we need to get legislation on that. They do at times take initiative, but there's just nuts and bolts things that they do.
That would not be good for
Right. No, that's good.
so,
You could take away some of their things, but they do nuts and bolts things.
maybe then we should, maybe we should just take a vote about whether or not we want a commission. Because,
We're
This is-
tabling it for today,
or-
and come back to it another day.
We're not that-
No, I don't want to take any more hands down the road.
yeah, we don't.
We're running out of road.
Yeah, we are, we're running out of road.
Okay, so do we want to have, I guess, Pam, to your point, both citizen-led one and council will do whatever is within
So-
their purview, then I will do.
Yeah, I don't,
That's the thing.
I don't think we can, based on what Pam just relayed, I don't think we can take away the council committee, because it's.
And council gets to decide.
So the issue on the table, as I see it, is whether to add an additional citizens commission to it.
Okay.
So that would be what we were polling on.
Okay,
Sound good?
Say it again?
So the committee stays, we don't get rid of the safety committee.
Okay.
But the question is whether we add an additional citizens commission to sort of provide everything that everyone's been discussing over the last 45 minutes.
Okay. Right, and it's a yes or no?
It's yes or no.
Yes or no to the citizens committee commission, whatever.
commission. Right.
And then once we do that, then we can decide whether they need to have resumes or, what they're gonna do and that sort of fun stuff. That'll take the rest of the meeting.
I don't want to do one.
Okay, I just didn't know how to comment.
No, I didn't. That was it.
What did you say?
It's totally unnecessary to have either director pointed out, directorship, or the commission put in a charter. It's not necessary. Everything's working fine, the police department is working fine.
So I disagree with you that everything is working fine.
Well,
And it's not just the police department, it's also the fire
but
department.
we're just.
It's not our place to correct every little tiny thing, but that's why I abstain.
And that's about, so the question on the table is, do we add a citizen safety commission?
Commission.
I'm having a rough, group that starts with the letter C.
Commission.
into the charter.
These and nays, you guys.
Are we doing it around the table, or are we doing it in this?
Let's just do it hands. That's easy for you to count.
That's gonna,
Okay,
Yes.
so all in favor of adding the citizens' safety into the charter? Aye? Aye. Raise your hands if you're an aye.
Dang. It's interesting.
Is it part of it? If you want.
Okay, it doesn't matter because we lost, so there will be no safety committee.
Well,
or
let's
commission, I
do
mean.
nays and let's do sayings, because there's still people think, like, you don't have an idea one way or the other, nay merit. Sorry, I have a conversation, so nays. All opposed?
Did you pull up both
Yes.
I just want to look at a couple more charters, confirm that I remember. I stared at charters to one who in the face, but I.
I'm gonna go back first, though.
So who was against? Okay, so who was against?
Yeses or
This
noes?
is
No.
This is, no,
This
this
is
is
you.
against putting it in the
One.
charter.
You were abstaining.
I was abstaining because I'm 24.
Five. Yes.
All right,
And then abstain, because I know we all heard them abstain. I have no idea what that count was. I don't know.
Three.
three
It was 4 in
abstentions.
favor, 5 against, 3 abstentions.
I wanted to.
No, we made her,
She did.
she were in favor.
She went on all, she voted on all.
Oh,
She voted.
Actually,
She said yes, no, he's empty.
Yes.
All right, so it sounds like,
Move on.
we move on.
So we are getting rid of all of the language concerning safety.
No department, no,
No
no.
department, no commission.
Right,
Boom, done.
Move on.
let's move on.
Sir, I can go make that.
Seriously, no department of police, or no department of safety.
Right, so, but that was an overarching department to direct code. The good news is that without saying that, they both wind up reporting to the administrator, who hopefully will do just as good a job without the title of director.
There's no reason saying these things can't organically come later.
Yeah.
We're not outlawing them. We're just not.
Yes,
mandating
they're not
it.
mandated. If they need it, they can do it.
All right, and then I'm striking through this
Not
one
the
too.
same people.
All right, hold on.
I did talk to Kim.
There we go. Yes, I have to make clear note of that. So that we remember what we talked about.
Yes, I'm gonna put that in red notes and highlight it and.
And underline it, italicize it. All right, so that was safety. Good conversation.
That's
it.
I think
Article 9, Shelley, we're gonna follow up with Kim. We had a lot of confusion on the whole fiscal year stuff.
No, this is easy, this is really easy. Kim is so clear. Fiscal year is the calendar year.
Let's hold on.
Using the calendar year, the dates that are in here that we require, December 21st, there was another date in November. She felt those were sufficient, this can stand just the way it is. All of that, one thing she had concern about was section 903C, council shall adopt a balanced budget. She said that, for example, this year, the budget is, if you're thinking of the budget as being balanced as to revenues and expenditures, it's frequently not that way because we have carryover. We ended last year with a whole lot of extra money that is planned ahead, which is being used this year. She said if somehow the idea of a balanced budget incorporates the carryover, she would prefer not to see the balanced budget line in there. Yeah, she was very nice. She said, I understand what you're driving at, you know.
So
I don't understand,
it doesn't,
if you put the carryover as part of it, doesn't that address her concern?
I think it has something to do with the formal way of thinking of the budget.
So I think she probably, because of the carryover from last year, she probably is thinking if we have to adopt a balanced budget, if it has to be, then departments are gonna have to spend that money.
Because you have to end up.
Yeah.
Because you have to end up with a zero net gain, net loss.
That's not even if we use it or lose the budget.
Exactly.
Purchases.
Exactly.
How did you say balance or positive?
We can just take word balance out, probably.
Well, yeah, I'm wondering, she made a lot of sense to me, and I left conversation feeling that striking it's not really on the fault.
I'm fine with that.
So we just, let's prepare a budget.
Right.
All right.
Yes.
I said I seem to remember something about that from a finance class from 15 years ago,
Yeah.
undergrad.
Well, she said, yeah, too often balanced budget is interpreted to mean there's a revenue series.
Right. That's exactly how it would be interpreted too.
And
So.
that's good feedback, so I'm glad you.
So we're striking balanced budget. from-
Well, just balance.
Just
From
now,
balance.
still need a budget.
Council shall.
Adopt the budget.
Okay, cool.
Then moving on down to our 904 section C, consistent with section blank, and except as otherwise, consistent with section blank is referring to where we have designated the signatory of contracts, previous other than administrator or mayor. And this says the administrator or an authorized designee, and she had a question about this too, shall award and execute all contracts on behalf of the village. She wondered if we might not put, with approval of council or something, because if he's going to, I know that this boilerplate language doesn't mean that he has permission to, but somebody might think to just pick this contract, you know what I'm saying?
I
Pick
feel
this contract.
But we already
I feel the
addressed
flip,
this.
yeah, I feel the flip side of that is that just puts the contracts right into council's hands, that he's been given the power to do this, that's part of his job.
And up to a
And
certain,
up to a certain
up to a
amount.
certain dollar amount, I mean, there's a whole bunch of checks and balances that we've already put in place for this.
I don't
Yeah.
know if she had.
Yeah.
That was her question, okay.
Yes, and then
Did you write down what section should be filled in that way?
I can't because it's not put into our charter. So, since it says here, the administrator, under the powers and duties of our administrator, section B, we're missing a 1. It just goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So maybe perhaps that was, yeah, so perhaps that was inadvertently.
Can you find where that is?
This is a 6 and 3.
Yes, as we do our lives.
You see, so perhaps,
Oops.
perhaps where we said that the administrator is.
No, we removed something from the budget, and there we
Yeah.
should change the numbering.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
which one should it be?
Well, back here in 904E, it says the administrator or an authorized designee shall award and execute all contracts in the behalf of the village. So, and I did look, other charters do have that set out under the powers and duties of the administrator. Additionally, I happened to notice we're not requiring our administrator to attend all council meetings. So we want them to do that too.
I thought we did.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah, I mean, we debated that.
That's just my.
I mean, there's nothing, we didn't say that they couldn't,
Okay.
but we didn't require it.
What was 903?
No, 904C is for the blanket, right?
Yes, 904 is with blankets.
Okay.
But we don't have the language. Where is the
Just putting a
administrator?
note here for Kelly for later.
I think he did like some.
Okay.
Where is, I don't see
Where they can do contract.
where they are signing contracts with the designee. Where is that?
Okay, that is under 904, contracting powers and procedures.
Okay, 904, and you said that was 904C.
Yes, under 904C, it says consistent with section blank, and except as otherwise provided in this section, the administrator or an authorized designee. So I presume since I've said.
That's
administrator,
what it should be. So that blank should say 904C.
No, that
That
blank
is
should
not-
say, that blank should say 603, whenever we put that phrase under power and duties of administrator.
I see, so it is missing. I got you. Okay, copy that. Thank you.
Okay. From service.
But if people aren't comfortable, that was what we had decided. that we kept this.
No, I thought that was good. I thought that's what you guys decided.
Somebody has to.
Somebody has to, yeah.
Right, we just,
So put it in as the administrative duty.
so what did you have worded?
Execute on behalf of the village all contracts, leases, deeds, easements, conveyances, and agreements. I can't remember, I picked that up like from OVEX, so.
Okay,
you
do
want me
we
to
have
read it?
this second and I will take that in. I'm just trying to,
Am I being too fast?
no, you're
No,
fine.
no, no.
Shelley, I can't imagine a board reading these.
You did a lot of work.
You did.
They're putting you on Front Street now.
Oh, but I just love reading charters, it's fulfilling.
Fulfilling.
Cool, okay, so we're gonna go back to 3B. And I'm just gonna add it in right here. Maybe,
Execute.
you want a second?
Whoa.
Something happened.
Something terrible happened, you know what, just like it there, you can let Kelly fix it for that. You don't know what's happening, I don't know why it won't fix. All right, I'll just put it down here at the bottom, do it.
Execute on behalf of the village all contracts, leases.
You have to talk a little slower.
Oh, I thought you were keeping up marvelously, I'm sorry.
Sorry. All
Contracts, leases. Deeds, easements, conveyances.
okay, we're getting into my inability to spell now.
No, you did great. You did great.
You do great.
And there we go.
Okay, conveyances. Why? C-O-N-Y. I think it's conveyances.
Yeah.
And agreements.
How do I spell this word again?
Y,
All right.
A,
And-
N, C, E,
Okay,
S, oh, conveyances.
and what was your last one? Sorry.
Agreements.
Okay.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question. So how is that different than 904C, which says an administrator or an authorized designee shall award and execute all contracts?
That's what I thought. And
It's the same.
then you said it wasn't.
Okay, because it begins the paragraph with consistent with section blank. And consistent with section blank in all of our sample charters, section blank was previously where either the mayor or the administrator
Okay.
are given the power to sign contracts.
Okay, I follow you now. Thank you.
So that now, once she's done this,
Our cross-references make sense.
yes, we can then go and put consistent with section 6.03B, whatever it turns out to be.
7. No, 6, 7, 8.
Whatever, yeah.
So this, you can put an asterisk for all here, and try to figure out the numbers. I think I've got it.
Yeah, she cross-referenced it.
I think I've got everything cross-referenced, and he's got notes, and he can fix the formatting himself.
Okay.
That seems reasonable to me.
And other than that, Kim thought, we got through this, she said it all was good to her, and everything's fine, so we're really done with section 9, I think, yay.
Cool.
Hallelujah.
Writing.
Hmm?
We just need Kelly to do some writing. Just do this, let's stress out.
Well, really, all they'll have to do to this, other than take out balance, to do this is add that section and turn it green. Okay, everybody, wake up. I see you, please.
No,
It's next on the docket.
Brady.
We're burning through this.
Brady.
She's used to discussing about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Do we need to approve section?
We can, yeah, but yeah, it needs some more drafting.
Okay.
Okay, this we've confirmed, sorry.
Yeah, confirm the fiscal year.
But we confirmed that the fiscal year is the calendar year, so then change that back to blue. I don't think that's the same blue. This one's bluish.
But then they'll be, why was that?
It's not green, it's not clear red. Yeah.
You do a format paper.
Good enough.
Good enough, close enough.
Well,
That's beautiful. Okay, so we got the feedback from Kim, so I'm gonna take out that note. Find it. Or even in the States, December 21st, we said she was fine.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take it out.
Yes, because she were even mental
Yeah, she's fine with that. Helps. It's trying to do all sorts of things to me right now, and I don't know what's going on. There we go. Okay. Good. Was that everything, Kelly? Shelley, you had on Article 9, is
On Article 9, yes. Yes.
that everything you have on to do this?
The other thing was the PM was going to look at the costs of
Mayors and administrators. And
No, did you go over to Inskeep?
Oh, I did, they haven't gotten back to me.
Oh,
That's
that's
all I want.
in my chat with Kim, I pointed out that I saw on our timeline here, the deadline to mail a copy of the proposed charter to each elector, and then the responsible party's fiscal officer. And she thought, no, I said, I did not know that till, and I said, I just want to give you a heads up, you might have to call and get yours or something. And she said, well, and I said, I said, we'll worry about the cost. And she said, well, it's budgeted. I don't know what that means, I'm not positive. But she said she was talking to you, Paul.
Yeah, and we're gonna look at that.
And I'm just passing that on.
No, that's fair.
No, I think that was on my phone.
Thank you for doing homework.
You're welcome.
All right, so are we good on Articles 8 and 9? As far as what we had to go through. Any other comments, questions, concerns on those other than Kelly? deal with that?
No, I think they're done, which is a miracle.
How
We're done, we're never going to unwrite them.
No, we're not. No, we're not. No.
All right, so that leaves us with.
Stop it right now. Don't need to do it.
Article 1.
You know, Article 10, I think we have some good notes on. I have not been able to sit down with Kelly, so we're just gonna skip that for now, because he hasn't drafted it, it's my understanding, surrounding something that's Article 10. Yeah. Okay. So that takes us back to our friends 11 and 12. The general items, descriptions, things like that. And then the transitional language that we need to put in. So a place that we've all been struggling, and I think some of this is just ridiculous what we've been doing, we've been looking at this so long that we can't be the right headspace to ask questions. Is, okay, the charter gets passed, what does it look like to transition the government? Right, we've got a mayoral election, we've got council members, I frankly cannot remember the number anymore of this election. We've got additional council members that will need to be voted in the next election. How do we make this a smooth transition? We have to talk about that and find that. And then also, what else are we not thinking about? We're able to think for ourselves. So I asked, this is why this is here, I asked Diane if she could help us maybe look in from the outside about what would be a concern, something that we should be thinking about for transitional items, other than the ones that we've already kind of hit on. So it just, again, we're stuck inside the house, can't necessarily see outside of it. What kinds of things would be a concern? We work on council. If charter passes and we have to transition, what kinds of concerns, truly from how the government works, should we be thinking about to make sure that we're accounting for sort of transition? What can you think of?
Well, I do know that, I haven't attended all the meetings, so I don't know which word you talked about, just stopping it. You're already guys solving that issue, but, the one thing that we're talking about right now is, that we have to, we're taking a look at the mayor's salary because she's up for reelection. She's up, that position is up for election. And we're also looking at, council salaries, council pay, I should say, because we have 2 members who are up for election. So if we're going to change it, we have to assume the charter is not an issue. We have to assume that business goes on as usual at this point. Because we have to get any pay changes in by the deadline for filing for the mayoral council race. We have to do that. So we're having a big discussion right now. So,
Do you know what that deadline is, by any chance?
August 6th. So we have to have 3 readings. We don't want to pass it as an emergency. So we've already had 1 reading with XXX in the box. So we're going to have, no, we don't have to change the mayor's salary at all because we won't. We did confirm, there's always been a lot of confusion about is the mayor, people have said the mayor's part-time, the mayor's full-time. The fact is that, I don't know if you're aware, but we drilled down on that, we beat up on that. And the ordinance says that the mayor is paid a salary of $30,000 a year, period. It doesn't address hours or anything else. So the mayor position, at least in the statutory village, we're not able to give the mayor a job description. They're an elected official. And what they make of the job is what they make of the job. And so, they can decide to come in not at all or have regular office hours. They can say, well, I've decided that I'm going to work 20 hours a week. They can decide to work 80 hours a week. It just really depends on the mayor, what the mayor decides to do. So, given that, then we were having a discussion about, is $30,000 adequate pay for a mayor and what they're doing. So that's been our debate. It's been a lively debate. And so we may or may not decide to pass an ordinance to change the pay of the mayor. If we do, it'll be an increase. But we're really on the fence about that one. But let me tie this into where we're at. So tying it into charter, that we've been told that for all elected officials, I think there's a small minor one, but for all elected officials, the pay that is established at the time of the election is the pay they have for the entire term. And that means that if, let's say, if we increase the mayor's salary to, okay, we're just speculating here, nobody's gonna go home and say, they just said this, okay?
I'm gonna say exactly what's about to come out of your mouth to everyone.
So if we said, the mayor really needs to be making 50K and, 50K a year. So if we said that, and then charter passes and we're hiring an administrator. So according to, Gene Hollins, and we were looking for, if you guys had gotten something in writing from her Nickler about this. According to Gene Hollins, once pay is set, and the mayor gets to, even if the mayor's role, even if the charter passes and the mayor's role should be diminished, the mayor has a salary that they have for the entire 4-year term that they're mayor. And there's nothing that the charter can do, there's nothing in the charter that the charter can write in that would change that. Now, is that your understanding as well?
That's
Not my understanding.
No, I
Well,
think,
my understanding is once the person's elected, if they're elected in the same election, that the charter passes, you can't change someone's rate of pay when they're in office that you elect them to.
I do believe we can, in the transitional language, make it such that their term is abbreviated and dictate a new election. Right, so
Right.
my thought on this, because I have been following council's efforts, and I think that a fair and reasonable way to handle this, right? Because we have proposed duties that are substantively different than our current mayor's duties, right? And whoever's elected, we should make it such that their term, should the charter pass, this person's term would expire on, at the end of December 31st, 2020, right? And that in November 2019, there should be a new election for a new mayor.
In
2020, yes, pardon me. Thank you, sorry, 2020, November of 2020, we should indicate in the charter there would be an election for a new mayor under the, direction, under the understanding that is the charter, right? That would give council, right, and for a term to begin January 1, 2021, last 4 years, and everything moves forward from there. That would give a year's transition period with the expectation that by the time that they have until basically June 20th of next year to figure out what an appropriate salary is with the expectations of a mayor under that charter, right? Figure out an appropriate salary for an administrator under the expectations of the salary, with the idea that it would all in concert go into effect January 1, 2021. I think that whatever may happen with mayor's salary this year can be handled that way, and it's fair and reasonable.
And then the transition language.
Yeah, I personally think we need to.
Yeah.
I
So that's the
agree we need a legal opinion, but that is my understanding.
My only question I have with that, because I am right with you with the whole thing, is, are there certain years that are mayoral, elections? Because
We can make
that would be,
our charter.
that's what I was gonna say is.
Yeah.
And if there are certain, there would still be election for that one, and then it would be for whatever the term is to get back on the way.
Yeah, if for some reason we absolutely positively have to have mayoral elections on odd years.
Make it 3 years term.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to pause because I think that's good feedback, because no, that's just a practical reality that we didn't really have. I know Shelley, you had a thought or a question, and I know Jen, you had a thought or a question, and then I think, were there other ideas?
I think that, well, I just wanted to, what I think our council group asked the mayor to do, I'm not sure if she contacted you or not, but, we just wanted to have whatever, if this is where you're going, if this is what y'all want to do, we just want to get something in writing from Ricker and Ricker that this is legal, what you're proposing is legal. We just want to get it in writing from the attorney, so we don't have any.
Understood. I think that's what we're.
Absolutely, that's what we want.
Absolutely.
Well, plus that's gonna have an effect on anybody who might want to run for the mayoral position this year, so. I was wondering if including, as Paul had been asking, if we included the little phrase, under the mayor, versus the office of mayor need not be a full-time position. And I wondered if we put in, the council can require the mayor to be available to perform mayoral duties on a regular basis. But what she's saying is that,
Well, understand.
Well, yeah,
well, yes, yeah, that's my question. under the
that's
charter.
their lawyer's interpretation, and I wonder if our lawyer will say something different.
Because
That's certainly, and also this is the way it has to be understood.
You have to ask.
We will.
We have to ask.
yeah, so we could add the office of the mayor need not be a full-time position, comma, but it can be, she can be, or he can be required to be on a regular basis and scheduled that she negotiates among the mayor and the administrative
Sounds like
council.
I'm gonna need any of that in there, based on what comments that she made.
Under a statutory plan, you can't do that. this is a chart.
Yeah, but we're not giving any direction anyway in the charter.
But the question was, did we want to?
But you were the one that thought you
Yeah,
wanted, and we all gave you a hard time.
Yes, and I kind of backed off thinking, okay, this is not gonna fly. Really, the only thing I wanted to get to was maybe mandate that they have certain office hours weekly, or they go to meetings that I don't wanna have an absentee mayor.
No, I agree.
And so what Shelley's proposing is language that would set that in council's
Yeah,
hands.
that's, they don't want to be allowed to do that.
Yep, so can a job description be determined, established, mandated in the charter for mayor?
Because right now, we have politicians all over this country, this side of the party, that are running for the president, and they're not doing their duties anymore. It's just the way it is.
Ted, what was your?
Diane, how likely do you think it is that council will raise the mayor's salary, unwisely raise the mayor's salary?
What's the word?
You're so cute, Janet.
What is the phrase in the?
I don't think this is true.
No, not at all, then.
No,
That's my actual question, I need to know.
Not true at all, then. That's true in the charter.
Yes.
You're taking care of it regardless, so.
There is $2 million, but there's only a 1-year term.
How's it, wait, help me understand that.
Why can't I ask that question? That's ridiculous.
No, we're not saying yes, but we want to get through
Well,
the
you can
charter.
on your own,
Yeah.
outside of meeting, but it's unfair to her not spot it's not changing the charter, that's what we're trying to do.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous. Let's go
Okay,
on.
Sorry,
Let's
okay,
act
so we
on it.
successfully spent enough time
Let's act
talking
on it.
about it.
Let's go.
I apologize, I shouldn't have even asked.
Oh my
I should have
God.
known better.
Nope, we're fine.
So we do have a work session on Saturday. You know, our next council meeting is not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. That'll be the second reading, so if you all can you get us that information from Rick and Heckler? And Avery?
Try.
Absolutely.
All right, I will email them out.
It's fair.
What else? So we talked about pay. The mayor, how to transition from mayor as it is today or statutory, charter, what can we do, how does that affect pay? We talked about that. What else, what other items can you think of, Diane, just from a practical view, you know how it works, you know?
Yeah, I would just say that, just a transition of less than a year would make me very uncomfortable. I think there are a lot of things that, I'm sure that I realize that are not organized, not together. Lots of policy procedures are missing. Incomplete, representation needs a lot of work. Technology is old. So there's a lot of things that need to be, worked through. So I think having a year, at least a year would really be very helpful with any transition.
What do you mean by?
And I wish,
I don't understand what you mean, a year transition. So we're gonna, if the charter were passed, we're going to hire a administrator and then have them do what?
we'll see the thing, quote, we're gonna hire an administrator, of course, we're gonna have to find an administrator, so I thought,
Part of the.
I mean, we're not gonna just jump in. So if we hire an administrator too early on, I think we'll just look at the budget. We've got budget, we have a mayor, we have an administrator. We have a mayor that theoretically, and if you have an administrator is being overpaid, you have another employee you might be able to phase out at some point. You just want to look at your budget numbers and decide how you do this phase, and that is a big part of it, is looking at how you can do it economically and intelligently. And so if we have some things we want the administrator to do, but
So what do
we
you,
have not
what
actually, I'm
by
sorry,
a year?
Huh?
I don't think you're answering Paul's question.
I'm just curious as to, if I was the new mayor, I would try to hire somebody, hopefully within 6 weeks to 2 months, get somebody in the door, and I want to train them immediately on you now in control of these departments. Let's get moving. I mean, I can see that taking time, but I've never ever been in a job or heard of a job that needed a year transition to do anything. I mean, I can't think of any kind of position.
I think you could have a person in to transition, but they would be spending a lot of time digging through files and trying to figure things out. Because you're, you know, and I'm not,
Like a learning curve is kind of what you're thinking?
well, I think that, we're all gonna have learning curve because the current mayor is not running and is not. So you're going to have this gap. And we're all, council and the rest of us are going to be scrapping a little bit. They haven't keep their fiscal. I mean, that's the main thing, that's a wonderful thing, we still got that. And I think otherwise, we're going to all be like, where's this and where's that? So sure, we can bring another new person in the mix so they can be going, where's this, where's that, what do you think? So I'm just more of an organist, it may be first mistake to bring someone in right away. I just don't know because I don't know what I don't know.
I guess my whole point is we're gonna have, if the mayor is not going to run again, there's really no, maybe she'll spend a week with a new person or a month, I don't know. But there's really essentially no transition at all. We have a new mayor, we're gonna have a new mayor and we're gonna have a new administrator.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And we're starting from scratch.
And
It's not
even,
fair.
even if she does run, it could be remote, we have to assume that maybe another person's gonna be in it anyway. So we
Well,
have
she
to
just
assume
said that
that's
she wasn't gonna
possible.
run, that's why I said that.
Right, but either way, you never knows what happens, right? So I think that it makes sense to write to that in the transitions, but it sounds like a learning curve and also making sure that you don't pull the rug out too soon and all the safety mechanisms away. It's kind of what they just started
I
out.
think you just have to, I mean, once the charter is passed, send it back to council, well, I assume, to execute on it, so we'll execute on it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how and doing the things. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think it's reasonable to say that if we gave you a year, if we gave council a year to transition, that that's exactly how long it would take?
I don't think that, I think,
I mean, do you,
you know, I haven't studied all the details of what you got in the charter. Honestly, I couldn't say, I could not make an intelligent statement about that.
Okay. So just time, I can appreciate when you make sure everything's covered and planned out.
yeah, and just for the record, I completely agree with Paul. I think we're absolutely, if the charter passes, whether it will or not, I have no idea, but if it passes, whether it passes or not, we probably are gonna have a new mayor. If it passes, we're gonna have a new mayor and an administrator, and there isn't gonna be any transition.
I have one more follow-up question. So as part of your reasoning for having a year transition so that we don't have to pay the administrator for that whole year, that we would be overpaying the mayor? Is that what you were thinking as well?
It's not just one thing, and if it's the right thing to do, to get the administrator in early, then that's what should happen. And, I don't know how you're writing the transition in terms of, you know, let's see, is the mayor, interviewing, is it that the mayor decides on the administrator with the approval of council, is that the job?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, because then the only thing the kinds of things I think that could hold it up would be if council and mayor putting it together on, who to hire. I could see it could drag out a little bit. If, you know, we find that the administrator that we just think we have to have is expensive and might be hard to sell. We might have some politics surrounding that in terms of making that happen. I'm just out here guessing. I am, you know, as, right now I'm council pro tem, but that gets voted on every year, so people might not like me next year, but not vote me in for council president pro tem, but anyway, so, but my, you know, my background is project management, and so I'm gonna treat this like a project. This is a project. it's an implementation. And so we're gonna, if I'm in charge, as far as that goes, the council, we're gonna map it out. We're gonna put some timelines, we're going to assign tasks, and we're going to move through it.
Consider it an agile project.
Would we want to have a provision in the charter that's, I'm sorry,
No, you're fine, Dick. No, please, please, please.
should we have a provision in the charter that gets the administrator on board, some period of time before we elect the new mayor? So that there's some training, or do you want to have everything happen at the first of the year?
Well, I think that we put in the chart already that the mayor will hire the administrator. So I think that I'm not comfortable with.
Should we put a deadline in the transition for when, by which time the administrator is hired?
I think we talked about that previously and decided that that seems like a great idea, but it's really hard because you can't necessarily, you can't hold someone to a deadline because they are legitimately trying, so we can't find candidates who, that's outside their control. So I think that's our landed, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
We really tried and
Yeah.
it failed. Jen?
And I'm gonna bring up your can of worms that you just mentioned. Diane, I wanna know, would it be, in light of what you just said about potential political bickering over who you hire, let's say you have a candidate or two, do you feel like it would be helpful if the charter gave council a deadline to hire an administrator? By X date, you will have hired an administrator. To at least mitigate, you have to come to an answer by X date. Do you feel like that would be helpful?
We're going to have 2 seats that are up for reelection, so, I don't know, that the mix in council is going to change again, perhaps, unless the 2 people run for reelection and are reelected. So, every time we bring on, and we've had a lot of turnover, I've only been a year and a half here, but, every time you bring on a new council person, you have to, they have to learn, and they have to figure things out, and, like it or not, people just don't sit in a chair and plug in. So you have that in the mix as well, so you're asking me to figure that out.
I can interject here to help answer, maybe I don't have Diane's perspective, but I can tell you at a recent council meeting when they were talking about mayoral salary, they took a straw poll amongst the 6 council members and all 6 opposed the idea of an administrator. So when 2 of them leave, even if 2 of them come in and are champing at the bit to hire an administrator, if that attitude doesn't change,
We're gonna have to give them a
we
deadline.
have a problem.
We're gonna have to give them a deadline. We're not gonna have a choice.
No,
Or they
no,
will
no.
bicker until the end of time.
No, I would like to, yeah, I get that, but if the charter passes, the charter passes. And if that's what we are, that's it.
I believe you when you say that. I honestly do. I know that you will. If the charter passes, you're gonna do what the people of Minerva Park want. I know you are. I don't have the same faith for everyone on council. And I can imagine that there would be more than one obstructionist who would throw as many roadblocks up as possible to extend the amount of time they have to live without an administrator for as long as possible. And because of that, I totally believe you and I trust that you are doing everything that you do in good faith. Even though you and I don't agree most of the time, I know that you are doing what you are doing in good faith, right? I do believe that. But I,
Sit on my chair, so.
Yeah.
But that's, the last thing you want, I've always said this, the last thing you want is council that just is a rubber stamp or
yeah.
a blank check. You don't want that. You want people with different points of view, and you want to try to work through those things. So the group, yes, our group is, I'm grateful. Our group is lively, and we don't always vote the same way. We have different opinions, but we do move along. And, we do move along, and I think it's all good exercise. So, the philosophy of no administrator, or would rather not have an administrator, that assumes charter doesn't pass. Charter passes, well, now we're going to incorporate the administrator. We're going to do it. So if you think that we should hire an administrator, if you wanted to stay within the first, okay, maybe, I mean, I don't like 6 months, but I would go 6 months.
So that's my question.
Why was there even a vote?
Why was there
Because
even?
it doesn't make any difference.
Oh,
It
no,
was a
it didn't
straw
have
poll. So why do a straw poll?
No, I totally disagree with straw polls. I felt that we were in a work session, not a council meeting. And so, one of our newer members decided they wanted to do a straw poll against my objection. And so a straw poll was made, which I did not participate in. So
If I could interject, I don't think this is, again, germane to what.
it isn't one of
So-
Yeah, I was gonna say, just watch the clock on that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Evan.
That's my job.
So I'm gonna stop us regardless at 8:15, because I want to look at the budget, so at 8:15, the table's yours. But is there anything else without diving into, talking it through, and I hate to say that, but is there anything else just at a high level that you can think of that would be concerned that we need to be thinking about when we meet next, as far as transition?
I guess I would just have to look at what you're requiring, what you're requiring the village have. So if you're requiring, I think earlier on, you were like requiring certain policy procedures or documents or, the budget's not a problem because we do that every year. But if there's anything that you're requiring that we just don't have, in terms of how long it would take to construct such a thing or, prioritizing it, that would be my only, concern that I would want to look at and delve into a little bit more to see if it's going to be a little bit more of a bumpy road than not. But, I'm sure you're not throwing anything out there that can't be done. It's just that, as far as the time is.
And currently we don't have any time constraints at all. We did originally, and we've argued about it, we've discussed it many times, but now I think we need to do it again.
I would suggest, Brian, part of the charter is on our website that we've completed so that Diane could see. Is part of it on there. There's enough on there, Diane, that will pertain to council. If you go to the charter website and read what we have, that'll help.
Is there some language that you always use when you're requiring something to be done? Is there some kind of search?
Shall.
Yeah, shall.
I don't know if the web page is such a way to do search.
Yeah.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done that. I'm okay with that.
I don't know what you did actually did make that application. Okay, so those are all good, and things that we haven't necessarily fleshed out as much, so thank you, Diane.
Yeah, I'm not sure where anybody's going to sit.
There's that.
Right.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We'll just get more chairs. All right, so. Oh, I'm gonna sleep, right?
Sarai went to sleep.
Just when you think Sarai's not listening, she actually is, and she jumps into something and does it all awesome. You've got total faith that she's listening. All right, so that was transition. I wanted to take some time and go over the budget information. So we played a little bit of email tag with Kim. And did get, here's where we started, here's what we spent to date, here's what we have left, here's what she estimated for certain things, and then there is a certain amount of money I think that's designated for something.
I've got other copies, we can't call them out.
I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Do you have it? Yeah, I just have a second, because I can't pull it out as well.
Anyone want a hard copy?
Yes.
Well, it's Paul.
Let's, sell the sites.
We already say it's for.
Some of your produces reports every day. I appreciate it.
$36,000. They've, Ken has broken it out by contracts and expenses and mailing. I don't know how much of that, I mean, I don't know that if we are down to mailing, and I don't know if we can use different funds for different things, I'm assuming we can. So I'm just looking at this as a $36,000 budget. We've had invoices and expenses for January, February, March, and April. So we know we're gonna have May and June. I have no idea what they're gonna be. I'm assuming they're less because we're contacting the attorney less. So from what I can tell, we're probably really, really close.
Really close.
Really close, depending on what the mailing costs. And we did get what was an example of $330 a month for the literature, I think I heard, to be sent to everybody from Inskeep. So if that's the case, even if you,
I think Kim gave us that. So
Yes.
everybody else-
so even if you triple that, because it's more stock, it's more paper, even if you double it, I think we'd still end up with $2,000 for the mailing. I think by the word it was initially, somebody said $8,000 for the mailing.
That was my battery envelope. That's, so that was assuming first class mail and assuming.
But we're printing and mailing.
Yeah, so I don't know what that's gonna cost. I have no idea. We budgeted $4,000 for that. Well, obviously, we're gonna go over probably the attorney fees and expenses. I just don't know, I have no idea. There's no running total. I get a monthly invoice in mid-month for the previous month.
The expenses are, they're broken out, I think they're on the separate.
It could be
They're travel,
yeah.
printing, so like notebooks and they come in. Travel here, that's what that 800 is coming out for. So you'll see like in April, we had no expenses because they didn't come working.
Right. And they won't be here in May,
But they're going to read through everything once we're done.
and they won't be
That's gonna
here.
expensive.
That's gonna be a big chunk of money, and,
Well, plus we have this legal opinion. We get.
yeah, and we have this,
Mayor's
let's
position.
pray that these are the last two things that we have to ask the attorney for.
So we essentially have $8,200 left in our budget.
So, okay, and then, let's pray that we stay in budget.
I think seeing it helps. And then now that we have this, when you get the mail.
I'll just plug in the numbers and all look at something.
So you'll get the May invoice potentially after June 20th.
No, I'll get the May invoice probably mid-June. You
Yeah.
get it
Oh, so
sometimes,
like the 15th?
sometimes it's the 8th, sometimes it's the 12th, sometimes it's the 15th.
I got you.
So it's,
I got you.
I should have it before the next two days.
Okay.
No, I don't know, what I would like to know is what happens if we don't make the budget. What is council, are they prepared to acquire additional funds? Or how is this going to work?
Well, unfortunately, it is accurate that,
Well, I don't know. I think it's a good question. I don't know. Ask, so got maybe any questions.
So it's council appropriation, council will have to appropriate money.
well, yeah, there's an additional question about whether you guys we think you're actually required to pay for it according to the language under charters, under the Ohio Revised Code. The language says that you shall pay for the mailing.
I think, though, even if we put that out, I still think the attorney fees by themselves, my guess, are going to surpass that.
You think so?
I'm just, at his point, there's a lot of review at $200 and whatever an hour to be done. The entire charter is going to be reviewed. He's not going to, he's going to take his time with that.
And it's totally fair, and it's also totally fair that if this passes, I mean, we've been doing this in good faith, and we want to, if it passes, we want to make sure that we have provided the best possible charter that we could
There's no
from
way.
this body.
Yeah.
So if we need more money, we're just gonna pray that council understands that we have been working in good faith to come up with a proper piece of legislation that can go on the ballot, people can vote on.
Well, and I don't think that we're necessarily being irresponsible, but.
Oh, God, no.
I think that we're in our favor, but we'll just have to cross that bridge when we come to it, it's good to keep track of it. I don't know the procedures for that piece I would be interested in learning.
Well, we're gonna have to, beg council for more money.
Well, and that sounds great, if you do it ahead of time, do it afterwards, say this.
if
is
you
now,
I think
and,
by the next invoice, we should make that decision.
Yeah, I think maybe we should be making the decision now. We don't have time to waste because we can't come to the end and find out that we don't have the money.
Right, and then you need to forecast how much, it's just practicalities.
I think the last invoice will be more than the most recent. I think the June, potentially the June invoice to me, which we won't even get until July. To me, that could be even more expensive because I think all the review that's gonna happen.
I think you're right. I don't think the May invoice would be that much, but I think
It could be.
But I think the June invoice could potentially be the most expensive one.
So, Paul, I guess, how would you handle that?
What I would do, if I could, I don't know if I'm able to contact Paul, I would want to know, up to date, whether I get an invoice or not, what are the expenses up to date as of right now? This day, I'm not sure that needs to come from our team, or that's Kelly, who's had back and forth with him with questions and stuff, but I think we need to be, I don't think I can wait until the
I don't think,
mid-month to find out from a month ago.
No.
I think at this
Well, let
point,
me ask you this, if we get you that information tomorrow, does it change what you would do?
it would give me more information to make a decision as to whether I need to go to council on it and try to ask for more.
Well, but we already know.
We don't know.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be really close. I don't think we're gonna be asking for $10,000 to $15,000 more. I think it's gonna be, we may need $3,000 to $5,000.
exactly. I think it's gonna be like, we
It's gonna
need,
be so close. I don't know that the mailing is gonna be that expensive. Now, that's another wild card. We don't really know. I have no idea what this is gonna cost. That if we do that information sooner than later as well, we can plug that information in anytime we want to. So we need to get the numbers.
So this might be self-defeating, but would it be possible to ask Brittany Eckler, in the general situation like this, how much more time is generally required? And
We've been doing invoices.
like an estimate, I mean, they've done it before running municipalities, so they should be able to provide with a rough, like a mechanic fixing your car, they might go over, we can, get a rough estimate, I assume.
And I should be able to get something from Paula Inskeep. I gave her the Johnstown thing, and she agreed. It didn't need to be that, heavy and everything, but she knows what we're looking at.
yeah, it would be great if we could get a ballpark from her
For the printing costs.
for the printing cost.
We need to know by how many people we're gonna.
That would be the other thing, how, looking at the, electors.
Electors for the
Yeah,
previous
so
election.
so there was two questions in there. Is it one for every elector or one for every household? Or one for every person who voted in the previous general election? So we have 1180-ish registered voters in the village.
It doesn't need to be
But,
one
no,
for
it's
every
like
registered voter.
Shelley, wait,
Will
Shelley,
you
what
read
does it
exactly
say?
what it said?
Oh, it does.
Yes,
Shelley, how does
it says, deadline mail copy of the postcard to each elector whose name appears on the poll or registration books of the last regular or general
So
election.
it's approximately, I would just round up to 1,200.
What happens to all the MI people?
Well, that's why I'm saying
If
we
it
round up
the
to,
last one.
because we should, but they should,
Send it.
but they should still get it, right? So
Most of them.
I think 1,200, yeah, we should just round up to 1,200 for estimating purposes. And we should get a new, the week before we're rolling here, we should get a new count requested from the Board of Elections. They changed their website, so you can no longer get an up-to-the-minute query.
Oh, but we don't need that to we just need registered.
Well, right, but what I'm saying, we would want all the registered voters, to pull all the registered voters the week before we're mailing. Right?
1,200 is probably pretty safe.
Yeah, I think it is too.
880 voted in the last election. schools edification, because so 1,200, 880.
So is that a number you're gonna give to her?
Yes.
That's the number?
Yeah.
Can we check with the Board of Elections to see if there's any way around one per house, one per elector?
That's not the Board of Elections, that's
That's
the state of Ohio.
Revised code.
Yeah, that's the ORC, there's no way to get around
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't, but, yeah, we're gonna get to it.
Well, you can see that there are people on roommates. Yeah, maybe you don't, no.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Businesses is where it's legit.
Well, and it requires mailing. I was thinking we were all doing so well at hanging up.
Oh, stop.
We can get so
It would have been great if they could have just, made it available here, or made it available online.
Regardless, it doesn't seem like you need more than a few $1,000 most.
Mailing 12, the mailing alone I'm worried
Is
about.
it $1 a piece?
Never mind the printing, the mailing,
50 cents each, shut it, what did it cost? For a
Already.
bulk mail? A bulk
it's
mail?
all,
Well,
yeah.
we do have a lot of pages here, Paul.
Yeah.
We can make it teeny tiny print.
Use that
It
here.
actually says.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, wait,
All right,
does it say we have to mail the whole thing?
yes. Okay, so.
Send them a link.
Actually,
Yeah.
Sorry.
On a postcard.
Give us space.
What, all right, so I want to go through action items for next week, so I'm not here, I just want to make sure that who's good what. And you're gonna follow up on printing costs?
Yes.
All right. Who else has homework for next week? Not Shelley, we don't. Oh, we didn't follow on anything budget-wise or no?
Well, if you're, I don't have any problem emailing Paul Voter, but I didn't know if I can do that.
I already have to, I just did it.
Yeah, I'm just really looking for a more up-to-date, like, how are we standing, to the previous month? I guess we already got that one. So,
You look like
for this month,
forecast.
where do we stand, like, up-to-date for this month? Where are we at right now? And what is he forecast for the month of June, when he actually has to lead the entire chart? Just a ballpark estimate, would be helpful. And I can put those in the budget as an estimate. And see what-
That, yeah, I think that's what it is.
But
I'm not gonna set it this way. Okay. And I will copy you on it.
just copy me and all.
And you're going to ask you about the mayor situation.
Yes, so the questions I have to ask, are how can the charter address the position of mayor? I'm sorry, I wrote this really short again, I know what I mean, it doesn't make sense in English. But I'll give it to you. Basically, how can we address mayor in the charter for the transition? We shorten the term, what are our options there? Also, are there limits or rules around years of mayoral elections that have to be on, just something like that, we need to take into account? And then also, can the job description be determined, established, or mandated in the charter for mayor? Also, the estimate of the hours. Those are the questions I have.
Now I take a couple hours right there. That's $400.
Wow, exactly, no, you're right.
No, you're right, he's going to want to look up stuff.
That's why it's better to have one
For the
person.
specific language on
Please.
mayor transition.
Yes.
I think that's huge tomorrow, because the way you're asking it is over, the way you're saying it here, whether it's when you actually, it's overbroad, because I anticipate his answer to that is,
You can do whatever you want.
do whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? So I think we need to hone down to,
This is what we want.
and maybe it's just me and driving my own desire, but you need to hone it down to what was proposed.
For example,
Should this pass, the mayor elected on, 2019's term will expire at the end of 2020 with a new election mandated in 2020 for a term to begin in 2021 for a 4-year term.
yes.
Is that
Type that all out, send it to me, yes.
We want to include the possibility of the deadline for hiring the administrator in your question.
I'm sure that's legal.
I'm sure it's legal, it's just whether or not it's a good idea.
That's the,
Okay. You don't want to give an extra questions.
So is she writing a letter, a specific letter on
Yes.
their letterhead?
Yes.
That's their ask, is that,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah.
and that's probably,
That's a legal, whatever, legal decision or whatever it is. It's a,
So you need on your on letterhead from.
Yeah, yeah, please,
Well,
we're trying to eliminate political bias,
so I,
opinions, et cetera. This is, we have the legal, written, that no one can say you heard it wrong, you said it wrong, you know, that can't be right.
And could you tell me the question again?
Yes, I read about all the questions. What exactly is the question? What exactly would be what you're looking for?
before you get there, can I interject, because I think I have a much shorter way to ask it and a much clearer way to answer. And that is that the intention is that once it's all drafted, Bricker and Eckler will opine on the legality of the charter as drafted. Right, that's the expectation.
Right.
So when they opine that the charter as drafted is legal, that's your answer.
No, but I need the answer now.
So,
We're making a decision now.
so, but the thing is
Well,
that if it,
You're asking for
Do you want to have 3 readings and not pass it as emergency?
We want to have, yeah,
Let me-
we have 3 reasons, not pass it as an emergency.
But you
We
need it by
just
August
need to
6th.
know, can the mayor, all we want to know is, does the mayor's salary stand for the whole 4 years? Should the charter be elected? Does the
It
mayor's
has-
salary stand for the whole 4 years? Can it be changed or manipulated or whatever? So that is my question now.
So in other words, does it-
Brian has added to that, you know, the idea that you guys had,
And then-
let's make it 1 term, let's shorten the term. That's a second question, that's not our question.
and this came, it was Jean who wanted you guys to do this?
No,
Or was it
Jean-
Jean's suggestion?
Jean has stated that it is his opinion that the mayor's salary.
Oh, I
position cannot be changed during the run of the term. And that's what we're using, you know, that's what we're assuming, because that's our legal.
I got you, yeah, okay.
Because he's saying it has to stand for understanding.
Yeah, well.
I don't know that he would change his opinion under charter either, but that wasn't, we're not supposed to be, we're trying not to do the what if thing, we're just trying to look at this as running the village right now, what would we do? That's all we can do. That's all we can do.
So does the mayor's salary stand for a full 4 years as written today? Or can you change if the charter passes and stays something?
Can it be reduced, can it be?
Can we change the mayor's salary after it's already been set and the mayor's been elected?
During the 4-year term.
During the 4-year term?
And that's only if the charter passes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we can't change it, if the charter doesn't pass, we can't. change it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is when you're elected, that's your. Whole time.
So if the answer is the mayor's salary stands for the full 4 years, the term has to stand for 4 years, the charter cannot change that based on the election, then that's the answer, fine. If it can be changed, you want that preserved, the any letterhead so that you've got that official.
Either way, yeah, just whatever the answer is.
Well, I mean, if the answer is that that's, I guess I'm trying to avoid having to print something out for us and send it, so if it's the same as what Jean said, I don't know if you need.
No, we do.
Letterhead.
Okay, so
Yes, ma'am. Just be trying
The-
to.
the first part of the
This
question,
is a really critical
Right,
question,
no, but
that's
if
all,
you can
and
do it,
it's about budget and all that kind of thing, and it's important to us.
Mhm.
In terms of being responsible, you know, and in terms of how we spend our village money. So it's very important to us, and it's, so please don't worry about being cheap on this, because if you come back and say we were $400 over because of this, that's fine, I mean,
It's a limited job break the camel's back, but yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, so either way, yes.
we need to know this, and, we recommended, our council recommended Bricker and Eckler as experts in charter versus our generalists, that we use for, Gene Collins, that we use now.
We just couldn't get them to respond. That's
Well, I mean, there's that, but nonetheless,
I mean,
one
oh,
more time, I don't want to go down that path. All right, so either way, you need an unwritten letterhead.
Then you're gonna need to explain to him why.
Yes.
And you're gonna need to tell him that council's legal opinion is X.
Yes.
Okay.
She hasn't asked you for it, so I don't understand why not.
What?
I was suggesting maybe Diana should email the question to you.
Is it less expensive just to have him come here?
No,
Oh, God.
no,
Question about,
hourly plus travel,
okay, but what is he charging us to do all this?
for him to look it up.
For him to answer questions verbally versus doing hours of research and. I don't know.
If he's gonna have to look it up, he's not gonna be able to answer it verbally. He's
He's
gonna have to go home
pretty
and
good
look it up.
about giving us answers. though.
Right, and he's been good about advising us. He's never given us a legal opinion
Not looking it up.
in the moment. He's gonna go, oh, that's a good question, I'm gonna go look that up. And he's gonna charge us to go look it up, and he's gonna charge us to write it down anyway.
That's
So,
good, it's just these invoices for, we haven't seen them in a long time, and we get a $5,000 invoice.
well, no, I understand we're up against the
Well,
wall.
and I will say that he did something that wasn't one month, so.
Yeah.
if you guys are gonna go with a scenario where, you know, you have an election after here, I mean, if that's going to be your scenario, just ask them the scenario now and then.
Yeah, we're gonna
I
ask.
think we all decided we're going to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna ask, I just want to make sure that I'm getting my answer that you want to
I would,
It's specific, it's very detailed and
I think we got.
I got it, you saw
All right, great.
All right, so.
I move
that's-
to adjourn.
Wow. All in favor?
Aye.
I don't know about, why, I don't know about half hours.